Hey everybody, welcome back to Artisy. Now I got one for you. This here is 60 minutes plus, let's just say an hour or so with John Inmon. And it's a long one, so I don't need to be talking about it. Enjoy. Okay, I'm no Barbara Streisand. Yeah, damn, it lit up a little better.
Yeah,
Okay, let me
I'm
get
gonna.
rid of
I'll be lit up about 9 o'clock tonight.
that. Well, nobody likes a braggart. God, I had some funny shit already to do. Gee, well, that's what you get for not writing it down. Okay, so let's just play like it nothing ever happened. It's
All
just
right.
all a horrible memory.
Oh yeah. Oh, I lived through the whole '80s, as a matter of fact.
Not a bad way to go.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so now I got room here in my little corner. I'll put up little pictures of the ones I sent you, kind of sums of those for the different eras, your different looks. You had the white shirt and the black vest and the long mustache for a while.
Too, yeah,
That was a good look. That lasted for a while.
yeah, yeah. It's sheer laziness,
Yeah.
just-
Oh, I meant to ask you that guitar you're playing. I couldn't really blow up enough to identify. It looks
what?
like a 335. And during those days of the Houston gigs with Ray, it's like a tobacco sunburst kind of thing.
Yeah, it was an Ibanez 335
Right,
thing.
right,
Artist, artist,
right.
and actually, I played that. It was out of balance. I mean, it was real neck heavy, and it was kind of a pain. But I was just too much in. I'm a victim of. I victimize myself with inertia. I just didn't have the wherewithal to change it, and I'm not. And I'm not like a lot of guitar players that just know all the numbers and the codes and. Oh, I've got the AST,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
To me, if I just pick it up and it says hello, you know, it
yep,
works.
yep.
I don't. Not a, I kind. I'm not a guitar nerd. I don't really care about all that stuff, and I suppose I should. But anyway, that was an Ibanez that I just kind of. I don't even remember how I got it, but I played it for years. And actually, Chet.Atkins played that guitar one time.
Really.
And, uh, um, I was playing it. Oh gosh, he's the most recorded songwriter in history. What is his name? Howard something.
Oh,
And
Not Elston Howard. He was first baseman for the Yankees.
oh, but
And
anyway,
it's not Ronnie Howard.
no.
It, it was,
Anyway, that I would think he wrote all kinds of country and western hits. Anyway, with Jerry, I was on a duo tour with Jerry
Harlan
Jeff,
Howard.
Harlan Howard. Yep, that was him. And we played his, I think it was his 60th birthday or his 50th birthday or something in the parking lot of BMI in Nashville. And I was over by the rent car smoking a joint, and Flacco, the roadman, came up and he says, "Hey, Chet.Atkins wants to know if he can use your guitar." I said, "What? Are you kidding me?" He said, "Yeah, yeah." And so I've got this picture in my mind. I didn't have a camera, but of him looking at the guitar, holding it over. And he got up and I can't remember who he played with, but it was like I saved those strings. I still have the strings.
Wow. Yep.
And that guitar went a long way with me. And I don't know if you remember, but I used to use a Blitz cloth on my strings, which was kind of, they issued them to you in the military to polish your brass belt buckles and buttons and stuff like that.
Huh.
It's treated cloth. And that whatever that cloth was treated with actually rotted the pick guard off of that damn guitar.
Wow.
I've still got it somewhere. It's in this closet back in here. But it was an Ibanez 335 copy. I think I bought it in 1980 something, 79 or 80.
Well, true confessions. When you admitted to not being a guitar nerd, I'm going to do the same thing. I don't know, and I really just don't want to know. I just get along by making the thing sound right, and if the guy's playing something shitty, I'll get him something better, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's all really about all of that stuff about who made it, when it was made, serial numbers, and all that kind of stuff. That's like chewing gum for the mind. And it's it's legit. It's legit. I mean, there are people who love collecting and they love the details, like baseball cards.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
stats and all that kind of stuff. This is part of the human mind that
yeah,
people, and it's entertainment,
yeah,
and it never really appealed to me. I would like to just go straight to the music, and how does it feel? How
yeah,
does it feel? How does
yeah,
it play?
yeah.
And it doesn't really matter who made it or when it was made or anything.
And how does it sound?
Well, that's the deal. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the whole deal. I mean, that's what I mean by feel. I mean,
yeah,
is
'cause-
can you get it to talk to you?
yeah,
Can, is it musical? Will music flow through this instrument?
yeah,
And that's the important thing. It can be a piece of crap, you
yeah.
know.
And a lot of times you can just pick it up and feel the neck and go, wow, this thing it's going to play itself,
You're right. Well, I would use the expression. I'd say this a lot. I say if I pick it up and it says hello, I'll play it. If it doesn't say hello, okay, I'll move on.
Then it's say hello to my little friend.
Say hello to my little friend.
So we go back to I guess in the late 70s. Hubbard, y'all had just left Jerry Jeff and joined up with Ray Wylie.
Yep.
And that commenced to be, how many years did you guys off and on play kind of steady with Ray?
Well, it was about 4 or 5 years, actually, something like that. It was from about '79 to late '78, '79 to up to about '83. It was a good long swath, and it was really a good time, man. I think I had more fun with that band than any other band that I played with, and just for great guys to hang out with, and creative times, and just hilarious mishaps, and like pulling the bus out of the parking lot of and Gary Mack turned around going, oh, they just like took the side off a car. We just kept on going.
I talk to him about once a year. I gotta find him again.
Love that, man. I'll tell you a story about. I think you might have been there. We were playing at this down on 6th Street before it became kind of a thing in Austin, and it was in this back courtyard kind of thing, outdoor thing, and they had this stage in the back, and we were playing, and it was a small stage, and it was a 4-piece band. Bob was on stage right, I was on stage left, Ray was in the front, and Gary Mack was with Dan Kinney at the board mixing. He would hang out over there, and it was a good long ways away. It was just across the room, diagonally from the room, and Bob was just kind of getting way off into it, and he fell off the stage. He stepped off backwards off the stage, and Gary, before anybody could do anything. See, Gary Mack is an ex-Marine, and he was like, man, this guy, he had been through it. And before anybody could realize what had happened, he had gone all the way across the club, all the way across the place, and was at Bob's side before Bob knew what happened.
Wow.
I mean, instant, he was on it. He was on it, man. That's the kind of guy you want to have on the road with you. Gary Mack, he was great, man.
That just reminded me of another story. It's on 6th Street, and it's Halloween. In a white building on the north side of the street. Might have been that, God, I'm thinking maybe that Truly Tasteless, maybe. No, it was on the corner. Right across from the movie theater was just to the right. So
Right,
one
I
of those,
think I remember whatever it was.
some kind of little indoor-outdoor thing, stage at the rear of the room facing 6th Street, And I believe it was Ray that goes, Gary Mack, is that our bus going down 6th Street? Do you remember that? It was parked on the side of the street, perpendicular to 6th Street, and it had some kind of faulty or reachable emergency brake where somebody reached in that front window, they could deactivate. Well, it did, and it made the turn onto 6th Street. And so the bus is going, I look out there, and there goes the bus down 6th Street, and it ended up crashing into one of those big planters on the other side of the street.
Forgotten all about
Still,
that.
God, I had forgotten until you mentioned, and I thought that's the story you were going to tell. But yeah,
No, I was thinking about Gary, and that guy he's a stand-up dude, man.
yeah, and had the knack of being able to reduce any situation, simple or complex, into one or two syllables.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. I miss seeing him.
Yep. I'll catch up with him the next week or so and give him your number or something.
Tell him I said hi.
I will. And also going back to that the Hubbard band, that was the most fun probably the most fun you've ever, and for me too, that was my introduction. And Dan Kenny really, and Gary Mack were they taught me the very basics of what it.
They trained you well, and Gary, yeah, and Dan was a really first-rate sound man, and he was a hard worker. And I'll tell you, he was always cool. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Never got upset about everything. Was kind of funny to him.
Yeah.
He could always humor in whatever weird situation we were in. One of us would be flipping out for some egoistic reason or something, and he was just like, you know. And great guy and just hilariously funny with a truly sick sense of humor.
Yeah.
Really good guy.
Yeah. Yeah. They learned me at least the very beginnings of it, and actually most of it. The two lessons from those two guys, because they were just the best at what they did too. And as far as that was like, go ahead. No.
What were the things they taught you?
Actually, the most important thing, I think, well, it's several, but pay attention.
Yeah. Yep.
And anticipate something going wrong. What are you going to do? In fact, that goes back to a lesson Gary Mack is driving. And I would sit up there and he'd say, you know what I'm thinking the whole time is left wheel blowout.
Oh.
Both hands on the wheel and left wheel blowout. What do you do? Because it's going to jump on you. And that was his, you just stay, like this Boy Scouts before it was, God, I'm still proud. I was an Eagle, but be prepared,
That's it. That's the whole thing. And it's a metaphor for living, actually,
Yeah.
And, but the road will teach you that in a hurry.
Yeah.
Because, anything that can, if you're out on the road, like we were 7, 8, 9 months out of the year, something's going to go wrong. Yeah. It's going to go wrong. And so you got to figure out, and no, you're not going to be home. No. You're not to help you. You got to help yourself. And so it's pretty good metaphor for living, actually.
Yeah.
Life on the road, man.
And it's going to go horribly wrong when it does.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you're right. We're lucky we're still alive, man.
Yeah. And it was movie scenes like from Young Frankenstein where they're digging up the first corpse and Gene Wilder says, oh, what a horrible, nasty job. And Marty Feldman goes, I don't know, could be worse. He goes, how could it be worse? Could be raining. Could be worse. It used to be, my thing for could be worse is could be Paris. Because, wow, back in the 70s, 80s, it was like, yeah, they just didn't even into the 90s, just really didn't give a shit about you if you were there or not. And I tell you when it changed is when Obama got elected. cab drivers started all of a sudden they can speak English.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. My dad used to say this about. He would say this to me about women. He'd say, "Son, women aren't like other people." But you can say the same thing about Parisians.
Yeah.
But they've got their own thing, and that's good. If you go outside of Paris, people tend to be a little friendlier.
Yeah.
But you're right about that. They don't not really crazy about Americans.
Well, they weren't, and then it really did change, and really started feeling really welcome. And it's kind of like the same thing New York City had, and it was pissed them off too. While we're at it, two places we won't go, but it was just, but that all they were just kind of misunderstood, I think, and deep down, they're really everybody. There's the same cut of good people and bad people across every segment, every town, every religion, every.
You're right. And as far as the French go, I in my time I've gone to and spent a great deal of time in an ashram in India, and there are a lot of French people in this ashram, and I learned a lot about it. And they're raised differently than we are, and they've got they think in a different way, and what we can think of as rude, they're just being very reserved, and they're respecting your space, and they expect you to respect their space. But we're like, what's wrong with that guy? He didn't say hello. Yeah. And so it's just they think differently. So it's not that they don't like us. It's just that they're a little more reserved than we are.
Well, it occurred to me just now that they had probably had more than their share of ugly Americans ahead of that.
No doubt about it. I started playing guitar in Heidelberg, Germany, and my dad was stationed over there, and every time he had time off, he would load us in the car whether we wanted to go or not. We would travel all over the place, and we went to France and all that. We traveled around in Germany, and this was in 1960 and 61, which was only 15 years after the war, and we.
Don't mention the war. Whatever you do.
We had completely flattened a lot of Germany. They were still recovering from the war. They were still kind of rebuilding, and there were scars. There were psychological scars in every country that we went to in Europe at that time. And the French were no exception, And so they've been through stuff that we can't even imagine here. And so they're naturally going to respond in a different way to stuff than we do. And it's on us to understand that.
Yeah, and respect it,
They're worthy of respect. They're survivors, man.
Yeah.
All those people over there.
Yeah.
Anybody our age group, their parents, a lot of their parents didn't make it.
Yeah.
And, they had to rebuild things. They were starving over there for the first 10 years, especially in Italy and Spain and different places. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here.
Well, it's all part of our Sociology Today series. Okay, let's see. So we talked about this. We never talked about this before, but the first song you ever learned to play, and what instrument was it?
That'd be What I Say, and it was my sister, my older sister. She's 4 years older than I am. Had a boyfriend named Lacey Key, and he was in a band called the Furies. And they played, at the teen club there and around. And they would. He was over at the house one time and had his acoustic guitar there with him, and he taught me an E chord, and he taught me to say. And when I played that first E chord, it was just like I still have not gotten over it. It was just something magical for me, and then I played What I Say, and then I learned a bunch of stuff that those guys played, like Walk Don't Run and Perfidia and stuff like that, and Ventures material, and Dwayne Eddy, Rebel Rouser, and that kind of stuff, and he also turned me on to Chuck Berry. That was it for me, man. That was it. I went down to the PX. We bought our records at the PX for like, I don't know, 98 cents or $1.25 or something like that. And I found a Chuck Berry record. It was called One Dozen Berries. And it had, cover on it was a bunch of strawberries with Chuck was grinning. It was like a greatest hits kind of thing. It was really an interesting record, but anyway, I just couldn't believe it. It was just, I had been raised on swing music and jump music. That's what my parents liked. And these grooves that they were playing, the rhythm section was swinging, but the piano player and the guitar player, they were playing straight. And then this groove, the way those things worked together was like, I don't know, man, it was like a drug or something. You could not move to it. And the guitar playing sounded impossible to me. And so I was like, oh man. And it really made a huge impression. And so that, that was a big part of starting out on the guitar. And this guy had a band called the Furies.
Great name.
Yeah, cool name for a band. And I had a little band that was saxophone, drums, and me. And we played this I was in junior high school. I think I was in 7th grade, something like that. And we played Wild Weekend at this talent thing that we did there. And this guy named Bob Soule, who was in high school, big dude, and he was a really good guitar player. He played in the Furies, and he came up and played bass for us that night, that afternoon. But that was my first gig. I think I was 13 or something like that.
God, that made me think of something. Before we had talked about the Mills Brothers also being an influence on you.
Oh yeah. Well, I have these long memories. I mean, I can remember laying in the crib and looking at a mobile. And but anyway, when I was about, I don't know, 3 or, really, really young.
Okay, I'm going to stop you. How good do you remember what was on that mobile?
Yeah, there was...
No!
Birds. They were birds. But anyway,
Wow.
Let's see, where was I? I can remember that, but I can't remember what the hell I was talking
I
about.
know, same there. Sorry. Let's see, you were talking about old memories. Okay, your oldest memories of, and we were talking about Mills Brothers and
Yeah,
stuff.
my parents would always have music on, and they loved swing music and all that kind of stuff. But one time when the Mills Brothers were on the radio. I didn't know it was the Mills Brothers at the time, but the way their harmonies sounded, it made me feel all sort of. I kind of wanted to cry, and it made me feel like my heart was just kind of choking up, and I didn't know what the hell is this, and I didn't understand it, but it was good, and so music has always affected me that way, and that's my earliest musical memory, and
Well, the thing about their harmonies made me think about you, and when I started knowing you, and from then on, that you were always part of really some exceptional harmony singing group. You and Bob really just, and whoever was out with you, Gary P. or Jerry or whoever, y'all always had and Ray, really tight harmonies, and that's not something you take for granted.
yeah, there's a magic in singing harmonies, that And listening to people sing harmonies, there's a sort of a magic there, and I don't know what it is, but there's it's very very attractive. It's like there's a lot of juice in harmonies, vocal harmonies, and I think that's why they're so popular. I mean, before there were a lot of instruments, people would sing, and
And even like when you guys, just the three of you, Paul, and Bob, would do the just the Gonzo Survivor things.
yeah,
It was always, I mean, it sounded so much more than a three-piece band. It was like five, really, six if you count, because you were playing rhythm and lead, and then Bob was such a good distraction for, hey, look over here. But God, what a sweet guy! But that was such a fun thing too. Oh, and I was going to have the picture of the treehouse gig. That was kind of a steady thing. Was that a Tuesday night?
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays. And Stevie came. I got Stevie to come up,
Yeah.
and
Never,
he didn't hear a single song,
no.
and everybody was kind of affected. But we got those good pictures made, and yeah, that was. I wish you'd heard. I wish you got to hear you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was something else for sale at that place that
Yeah. See,
than us,
yeah. I gotta go. So going back to the Hubbard bus, rolling down the road in between gigs, it wasn't typical. That was the only time that I was ever with any band or group that would get out the instruments and little battery amps and
Yep.
do a whole 3, 4, 5, 6 hour gig. It was seems like Miller Lights
Yep.
and other stuff. There's a lot of cigarettes.
A lot of pot.
Yeah. Oh God. And the bus with no bathroom.
That's exactly. Well, you could pee, but you couldn't do it. That's all you could do.
And that took a lot of doing.
It
The
did.
first few times.
Yeah, it was pretty rough, man.
Because Gary Mack would hold the bus driver door like an old school bus. It's
Oh
a
yeah, out the door. Yeah.
yeah. And I learned quick on, don't put your luggage in that first bay
Yeah.
on the passenger side because it gets stained.
Flashback.
And so it probably only set like maybe the front step maybe only 12, 14 inches off the ground, and it's going by at 75 miles an hour. And it's like, oh man, stage fright. It's just like, dang, you clench up. And it's like, okay, be there 10 minutes. And he's like, oh, bro, come on.
Good imitation of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
But that bus was quite a trip, man.
But you guys love music, and it was just, that was the whole thing.
Well, those little amps, I don't know what they were called. You remember the name?
Mouse. They were
Mouse.
mouse amps.
These really were a real godsend because we could work up material on the bus while
Yeah.
we're driving,
Yeah.
or we could just kill time and jam and play and have a great time.
Yeah.
And then we up backstage and we'd play for about 30 minutes to an hour before we ever had to hit the stage. And when we hit the stage, we were warmed up, man. We were ready to go. And, there was no, a lot of times when you play a gig, the first 2 or 3 songs, you're just kind of getting settled in,
Yeah.
and your hands are getting warmed up, your voice is
Yeah.
getting, all that kind of stuff. But we were ready when we hit the stage. And that was a group of enthusiastic band members.
Yes.
Everybody was like chomping at the bit, man. Give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. Come on,
Yeah.
give me the ball.
Yeah.
It was like everybody was like that. Ray was like that. Bob was like that. Paul, I was like that. Everybody really just wanted to get up there and kick some ass.
Yeah.
And it was like that. We maintained that stance for a long, long time, for years.
Yeah. Remember, one of my favorite ones was Texas is a State of Mind.
Yep, that's a good song. Ray wrote that. He was driving. We had a gig somewhere in West Texas, I think Abilene or someplace. I think it was Abilene. And he drove himself. We met him there. We drove up from Austin to Abilene, and he drove in from Dallas, and he wrote that song while he was driving, and he had it all ready.
Wow.
When he got there, he said, "I got a new song," and it was an anthem for our time right then.
Let's go ahead and piss off Oklahoma while we're at it.
Oh yeah, 'cause
That was one of the best lines. It had to be some old line that he had heard before. Do you think he wrote that line? The only, they say that Texas would fall off into the Gulf except for the fact that Oklahoma sucks.
you know, Ray could say that because he's from Oklahoma. He
Yeah.
was born,
Yeah.
and you know, he wrote that song. He was born in
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Else, but actually Ray was born in Oklahoma, and
Yep.
he's got his Oklahoma roots.
Yeah.
So he could do that. Plus, his wife and her parents were huge UT fans, and actually one of their relatives, I believe, was well, no, not really. One of their best friends was Wally Pryor, who was Cactus Pryor's brother.
Wow.
And Wally Pryor was the voice of the Longhorns.
Really?
He did did all the radio and television for the Longhorns, and they all hung out together. And so Ray was sort of infected with the UT bug at that point, and there you go.
Yeah. And God, man, just keep going on about that bit. He was like a really sharp Johnny Carson. His wit on stage was like, a lot of times you would hear the splat on the wall where it just went over everybody's head.
But really true. I mean, he's just so dry. He just the driest sense of humor, and he has really developed that over the years. And I think here's my theory. Bob. He used to hang out he played in a band with Ray before called Three Faces West.
Yeah, with
Ray was just this complete kind of TV-aholic. And Bob tells the story. He says he would have a case of beer and maybe a head of lettuce, and every now and then he'd go nibble on a little bit of lettuce and then open another beer. And he would sit there and watch TV all day, and he'd be watching all these game shows and comics. And he studied comics. He studied. Three Faces West, they were sort of a traditional 50s and 60s folk group, and those folk groups, they would sing harmonies and they would play and sing, but they always had this kind of snappy pattern between the songs, and they would do these routines.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that Michael Murphy? Was the third one?
Oh no, it was. Oh gosh, now you got me.
Come on, Mr. Memory.
Oh. Anyway, they would have these. I'll think of it here in a minute. And they were all great. They were all just really great. And but they had this snappy pattern, and so this was part of his training as a musician. That you had this sort of told jokes in between. You made people entertained them, made people laugh. And so that's just kind of been part of his thing ever since. And now it's like breathing for him.
Yeah.
I think if you asked him, he would go, "Yeah, I guess that's right." But that really came about because that was where he started.
I didn't know any of that until just now, which makes a whole lot of sense now that he probably studied Carson a lot. Because especially the times Carson was the funniest was when the audience didn't laugh at all, and his response to that. And Ray's was so much like that. It was like that always.
Just really, he knows how to do that stuff, and there's a certain, they say that being a comic, being a stand-up comic, is a lot like being a musician because it's about rhythm.
Yeah.
And you have to know when to let the beats go, and all that kind of stuff. And it's a very nuanced and subtle science. And some people, sort of have it, and some people don't. And Ray's got it in spades, man.
Yeah, so the old joke, you get somebody to say, in comedy, timing is, so you go ahead and say that.
the timing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my God. So where do we go from there? Just
Usually.
talk amongst yourselves. The Jersey gig.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that was probably the best musical experience that I can remember playing with that band. It was just one of those, the stars aligned, and we had just the perfect kind of pot. We had played it. We used to play all, 2 or 3 times a year, like 3 night stands at the
Lone Star Cafe.
Star Cafe, Mort Cooperman's place, and of course we had to get there and back, so we had to book gigs there and back.
Yeah.
One of the booked was in New Jersey afterwards, and we had scored some incredible Colombian marijuana the night before, and we got to that gig in New Jersey as stoned as Mount Rushmore, man, and everybody but Ray. Ray didn't smoke, and he smoked cigarettes, but he didn't smoke pot. And Miller Lite was his thing at the time, and but somehow or another, the band just really was cracking that night, and there were some beautiful, beautiful moments, but nobody was there to hear it except you and the bartender and Gary Mack, and maybe 1 or 2 other people,
Yeah.
and that's. But it didn't matter. See, that's what was beautiful about that band. Was it didn't matter who was there, how many was there, if it was packed or not. We were trying to play for each other also, but we wanted to everything to be as good as we could possibly do. And we were having so much fun playing that it didn't matter. I mean, we were like digging in to this stuff, We were digging into it, and it was fun. It was like it was a gift to be able to be playing music, And so, if there were a lot of people there, hey, that's good, cool.
I got to tell you, it just hit me that the defining moment for me that night was the quintessential version of Desperados Waiting for a Train. I
Really?
never heard that song played any better by anybody. The harmonies, I mean, just it was like, like in 7
Yeah.
pieces.
Ray did it really great. I mean, he could really sing that song, and he really brought out the emotion in it. Like he was acting, that ending when it drops down,
Yeah.
and it was like you believed this character. It was like watching a western, and it was, and everybody was into it. Everybody was in that moment, and it was
But
beautiful.
you guys' vocals too made that, and then you took off, and it was like because it gets to a pretty good extended guitar solo there.
Yeah, somebody got to rein me in.
Yeah, Bert calls that. They didn't used to call it a lead player; they call it a takeoff man.
That's right. I was the takeoff man.
Take off.
A lot of people tell me to take off. But actually, I had a book one time that was like, it was really a cool book because it was a instruction manual for the guitar. And it was one that I had never seen before up to that point. And what it did was it had little maps of the guitar neck.
Yeah.
It had dots where you put your fingers, for
Yep.
this different chords and stuff like that. I'd never seen that. And the name of the book was Take Off Guitar. And I remember that. I learned a lot from that book.
Well, let's move on to the session then, because that whole idea occurred to me within 24 hours, and really the last 3 kind of put together the whole thing of everybody I wanted in there, and I called Paul first, and I think I might have called Bert then, but then I called you. And from that point on, I mean, you say you kind of felt you've never really felt intimidated at a gig, but
Well, no, that's not true. I have felt very intimidated at different gigs. I have a stage fright issue, and I always have. depending on the situation, the intensity goes up and down. But by the time we did that session, I knew it was in a recording studio, and I knew everybody except one person.
Yeah.
One person another person I didn't know very well. I just knew of him.
Yeah.
And so I knew the studio, and I knew the engineer, and I knew everything about it. And I had done millions of sessions at the studio.
And the rhythm section.
And the rhythm section knew those guys. They played on my record.
Yeah.
And so I felt pretty comfortable about it. I didn't feel intimidated about it. I was kind of jazzed about the opportunity, but I was trying to keep my mind open and just say, well, whatever happens will happen.
Yeah. And you alerted to me you let me know early about a situation that I got on top of quickly to make sure that it was never a shootout, that it was like one person, one lead, and three comps. And and to me, as a guitar, not really wanting to know a whole lot about it, but liking to hear it and all, was to hear what the other three guys would be doing while, in my original notes I had Reese on there, and I put right after that I put horns, and then I scratched that out quickly, and then next to Reese's name I put, would he sit through this? and then I scratched out because wait, there's three guitars not playing the lead. Somebody's going to find a horn part, a keyboard part, a this and that. And the fact that all y'all's, even though it's all guitars, it's so different. Even just the instruments and your backgrounds and the things you bring. To me, you added almost a lot of your stuff kind of was like an organ almost. And it was like it filled a hole,
Yeah. To me, noodling around on the guitar and playing solos is fun, and it can be exciting and all that kind of stuff. I could probably throw a rock here, and I live in the country. I could probably throw a rock out here and hit somebody that can play faster than me, and all that kind of stuff. There's lots of noodlers out there, I get more joy out of comping almost than playing leads. It's just a different thing altogether. It's like you're part of the inside of the song. Like you've got one foot in the rhythm and one foot in the chordal harmonies, and then there are lines that you can play that'll link those things up. And comping is it's an art unto itself, and I find it a lot more fun and interesting to comp a lot of times than I could have just comped that whole session, let those other dudes play. I would have been happy as a clam.
Well,
and
we wouldn't have had People Get Ready or Last Date, and God, People Get Ready is a tearjerker.
Thank you so much. Well, that girl can sure sing, can't she?
Yeah, well, I got it two ways because on the original record is just is the instrumental.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
anyway, it's a cool song. It's a beautiful song. I've always loved that material. Those harmonies, not vocal harmonies, but the way those chords are shaped.
Yeah.
It's gospel. It's gospel.
And what I've got on the video is the birth of that when Derek it's just you and Derek, and he's saying, "Have you ever played this song?" He goes, oh, and you go, "Yeah, we sometimes do it at sound checks or something, but never really did it at a gig, maybe once or something."
Right.
And just from the birth of that, all the way through to the and all the different formations that we were in.
That's Curtis Mayfield.
Yeah.
And his stuff, like It's All Right, those harmonies that came out of those people. I think they were in Detroit or someplace like that. But anyway, Curtis Mayfield. His songs are so beautiful, and the harmony and they came straight out of the church, and there's some magic in there, man.
Yeah. Lots of, and at some point I'm gonna try to get all that video together too, of like the birth of a song, because
Yeah,
every one of them happened that way. We got 22 songs in 4 days essentially,
yeah,
and some of them a lot of them were one take.
yeah,
Some too. I think People Get Ready might have been the one that took the longest, and that was just under an hour.
yeah. I mean, it's a pretty fast song. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see some of that footage. I
Yeah,
mean, there were some really wonderful moments in there, and everybody was sort of pitching in and doing what they could
yeah,
on it, and there were some funny moments and some, um, uh, you know, all business moments,
yeah.
and it was great. It was fun. Professionals working in the studio and having fun at the same time.
That was the one thing going in that I felt like I had to do. One, be ready for spontaneity. Be
Yeah,
ready for anything. That's why I had those couches already in mind for the interview thing the first day when nothing worked. But also to keep it light. If we were going to get anything, that it had to be essentially like a family reunion where only a couple of you knew each other, kind of, and a
there,
strange cousin, Uncle Bert. It's like, wow, that's a strange one.
Bert and I really hit it off. I had never even heard of Bert before, except from you, and he just blew my socks off, and he was so funny and such a soulful cat,
Yeah,
and just a really, really good. I mean, he's a character from the get go, and just really, really wonderful.
yeah, straight out of the hills of Kentucky.
And I'm proud of the work that we did.
Yeah, me too. Uh, I couldn't have hoped for any more actually.
Yeah, I was so you were so generous to do that. It was wonderful. I mean, you really put everything into it. I mean, to make sure that it was videoed, that it was taped, not just digital, but it's on tape, and it's in the digital world also. I mean, you covered all the bases. It was really wonderful. And there was a lot of work you did, man. You did a lot of work.
Whoops. And da 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 da. The vinyl.
Yeah,
Did it
exactly.
on vinyl, a double album vinyl,
Wow, how cool is that?
and the heavy stuff too. That was why, because my original thing on the top of the first page was purpose to record the songs, some of the songs, the playing, and some of the stories of these 4, 6 guys,
Yeah,
and for posterity, and
yeah, posterior.
yeah, and so to do that, you can't really just do it digitally because just the right solar flare will wipe all that out.
I always tell people we're like one solar flare away from the 19th century.
Yep.
So, by golly, it's good. Get as many ways as you can.
And so at one point, Glenn asked me, well, what about the future? And I said, well, that's why I'm doing it on vinyl, because you could take like a bicycle wheel and a tin can and a nail, and you could play the record. And he goes, well, I was thinking, oh, a post-apocalyptic future. He goes,
Yeah,
you did think pretty far ahead. So, yeah, so the only way to actually preserve it was to do it on vinyl. And to do that, if you're going to do that, you got to do it on analog.
yeah.
Because it's just so, it sounds different. Do you ever put do you
I
ever,
did. Got it. Yeah, and you're right. It does have a warmth that the other doesn't, and it has a. Excuse me. I don't know if it's. Yeah, it is warmer, but there is a sound that is caused by the needle.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
sort of an ambient sound that's not there in the digital world. Plus, if you look at the wavelengths from an analog recording and from a digital recording, the digital recording, the wavelengths don't go like this. They go in these little stair steps.
Yeah.
So they have this edge to them.
Yeah.
That's when it's just a few bits, you can really tell that edge. You can give it that brittle sound. But an actual analog wavelength is smooth like a baby's butt, man. Yeah. And so actually sense that. You can hear it.
Yeah. I call it Danalog just because that's and I try.
Hey, analog record.
Yeah.
Offshoot record company called Danalog Records.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We need to try to sell this thing at some point.
Oh, yeah.
One of the fun things I forgot about was name the band. You want to explain how that worked?
Which one?
The game of name the band with two hats.
Oh, yeah,
This would be some kind of a little thing for families to do for the next 2 or 3, 4 months. While you're locked up, can't get out with your pod. A fun game, and you could even do an adult version. But explain how that would work.
There would be 2 hats, right, or 2 buckets or whatever, and you have one of them full of adjectives, and another one full of nouns, and then you draw one adjective and one noun. You put them together, and you have a name for the band. And I actually played in a band with Freddie Kurtz where he did this with his wife. And the name of the band was and they named the band this. And it was the Shaken Apostles. They came up with.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, and so that was because I had told him about that game we used to play. Of course, I pissed off Freddie because I said it sounded like the Shaken Old Fossils. But
Yeah, that's a good one.
that pissed him off pretty good.
Yeah.
But he didn't get my sense of humor there. But anyway, it was a fun. And we came up with some absurd ones. And you remember we used to do Mad Libs on the bus. You remember that? You know what Mad Libs are?
Refresh my memory.
Okay, it's like paragraphs and sentences where you take certain words out and you ask somebody like, "I need an adjective." You put it, and you can get really obscene. Anyway, never mind.
Yeah, no, that was good.
I think that's where that came from, was from doing Mad Libs.
Oh, really? I think we hit the high spots. We didn't talk about your first live appearance.
Oh, it was a talent contest in junior high school. I think I was in 7th grade, and 7th grade or 8th grade in Heidelberg, Germany, where I started. And we did, my little band we had a drummer and a saxophone player and me. And this guy that was in the same band as my sister's boyfriend, a guy named Bob Soule, played bass with us that night. He had pity on us. He was damn near an adult. But he played bass with us. We did a song called Wild Weekend, which is, you can still, by the Rockin' Rebels. The single had, the tempo was,
Wow.
okay, and the B-side was exactly the same song, except slow.
Except it was what?
Except it was slow.
Oh.
The only song they knew, but
Excellent.
the great record I was telling you about?
Yeah.
There were 2 songs on there. One of them was called Slow Feeling, and one was called Low Feeling. And they were both the exact same cuts, except one was like it played slowed down. And you can hear Johnny Johnson's solo. It just sounds amazing at the slow speed. And look it up if you're interested. Anyway, people would do that. They would have the same song on both sides, but one would be slowed down. And the reason they did that is because you got paid the same royalty rate for both on each side. So if you sold 100,000 copies and you got
what do you want to kind of say to people nowadays as far as how to get through the next few months, what we've been through, and just to, kind of encouragement to keep going?
Well, to be, you know, it's not. This is just wear a mask, keep your distance, and be kind. Those are the three big rules that we have to remember, and the first, and that's probably the inverse order. The first thing is be kind.
Yeah.
How do you be kind? You wear a mask and you keep your distance because, if somebody said, "Well, I don't want it. I want my freedoms." Well, I'm not wearing a mask for you. I want you to wear. I'm wearing a mask to protect you, not to protect myself, because that's the science. That's what it's about. And so, stay home. Do what you need to do. I mean, it's not fun, but gosh, don't be a baby about it.
Yeah.
And there's more people in the world than you. I mean, this is a global pandemic, and it's up to all of us. The whole tribe of all the humans have to pay attention to this, not just certain humans and certain other humans doing something else. We all have to do this if we're going to save ourselves.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, that idea has been politicized.
Yeah.
By the people in power who are doing it for cynical, or who are politicizing it for cynical reasons.
Yeah.
And it's about loving your neighbor, basically. So be kind. That's all I got to say. Just be kind. Come from a loving place. Take care of yourselves and take care of other people. That's the important thing.
Yep. Yeah, basic stuff everybody should have learned, and we all learned from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, you can remember probably hearing that when you're 6 months old.
Yeah.
From
Well, my dad was a doctor, and so I mean he ingrained these sorts of practices in us anyway. He taught us how to wash our hands for 20 seconds when we were, little kid. I can remember him saying, "Get that water as hot as you can till you can't stand it," because he was serious, and. So we had this idea early on, but that's an exception. Some people, and I can't say I've always followed it either.
but treating each other right, treating people.
The golden rule, man.
Yeah, yeah.
The golden treat people who want to be treated. If you want to be taken care of, you got to take care of people.
Yeah.
There is to it.
Yeah.
What goes around comes around. All those cliches are true. They're cliches because they are true.
Yep. That was one of always the last things Stevie would say at the end of a gig is, "Oh God, I'll misquote it, but if you treat yourself like you treat others like you treat yourself, everything's gonna be all right."
Yeah, that's it. He was right. He was a magical dude, man. He was absolutely. I'll never forget the first time I saw him play. Pretty much the first time I saw him play. We played. There was a club outside of Austin, Southwest, called Soap Creek Saloon. It was out on Beacon Road. This incredibly rough driveway to get in. People were dropping their transmissions just trying to get to this club, and Stevie's band opened for us. There was the Los Gonzo band that was headlining, and we did our sound check and all that kind of stuff. And they were setting up. I went back to the bathroom, and I was going to go go out and eat afterwards. And I got halfway across the dance floor, and Stevie started playing solo, and it was one note. It was one note, and it stopped me in my tracks. He was just slamming that thing, man, just slamming it with so much intensity. And then he let it go at the perfect time. And I thought, oh my God, he was like incandescent, There was a light that came out of that guy when he played, and he wasn't there. He wasn't there when he played. There was something else that was coming through him. He was a magical dude, I think. And I was really sort of intimidated by him always, because I was the same way. I've almost the same way around certain people like Willie and other people that are, they're special. There's people that are special, and so I always just kind of stay away because I have a tendency to make an ass of myself, as you've seen in this interview.
No.
But I do have that tendency, and I just don't want to do that with these people. And I was always like that with Stevie. I was kind of shy because I knew this guy was going to change the world, and he did.
Yeah. And if he had been alive, he would have actually been really proud to be the fifth guy in the group. It would have been 5GDB then.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Because he loved comping as much as anything,
He was great at it too, man. He had time like nobody's business. Yeah. He could just stay so deep in the groove. It was, it was amazing. Ask Reese; he'll tell you.
Yep. Oh, so how long did you work with Reese with Jerry Jeff then, or over the years?
Oh, it kind of came in and out. Yeah. I mostly ran into Reese in the studio, and he played in another version of Jerry Jeff's band called the Bandito Band, and they let the Gonzos quit Jerry Jeff, and en masse, as they say. And we thought he was going to kill us, and that's another story I'll tell you sometime. But we were flying around in these little airplanes. But anyway, Reese was in the next band called the Bandito Band with Freddie Kirch, Ron. I can't think of anybody's name, but anyway, it was a really good band. Bobby Rambo played guitar, and but Reese was in that band, and he had played in a bunch of different bands. I think he was actually had played in some of those Georgia bands, like that were offshoots of the Allman Brothers and all that kind of stuff. And but Reese is just like a monster. He was my neighbor for a while here in Bastrop. And but we didn't get to run into each other. We always just sort of met in the studio. He played on one of the Gonzo Band albums, and played him just this massively amazing solo on an instrumental we did called Newsbreak that you should hear sometime. It just blisters the damn piano. It's just amazing.
Did you ever hear him with Delbert?
Yeah, sure did. He was fantastic.
Yeah, he really played that stuff.
He was perfect. He can play anything.
Yeah.
So, but his main thing is rhythm and blues.
Yeah.
That's where he gets his. That's where he really shines, And but he can play jazz too really well. And but that when he's a pocket player, man. He's just, and his solos are just monstrously on fire.
Yeah.
Best musicians I've ever worked with.
We were actually with Stevie. We had just come into town on a Friday, had been on the road for a long time, and starting Sunday, we're going to start recording Live Alive at the Opry House. So I had called around. Stevie Wonder's going to be at the Drum on Saturday night, and so I'd called our production manager. He knew the guy, and said, "Yeah, we get you like 4 tickets." I was the only one that went. So, and I actually got to the right pass to stand in a line and shake Stevie Wonder's hand, and it's like,
wow.
"Dang, wow, yes, sir." And so the next day is Sunday, and everything's set up. I'm playing the bass, and Reese comes in, and I start doing bass lines from the Stevie Wonder songs, and he's playing along with it, and just like we just go from one to another, living for the city, all those, and then I go into Superstition, dum 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 dum, and he gets on the clavinet and is doing it right when Stevie walks in, and he comes in and goes, "Don't stop," and picks up his guitar and starts doing it. And that was why we played it for like 5 minutes. Chris, we needed the lyrics. So Chris had a cassette of the song at home, so he went and got it, and we listened to a line, got all the lyrics, and that's how he ended up recording it.
God, incredibly cool, man. What a great story, man.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Holy cow. Yeah, I mean, Reese can nail that stuff, man. He can nail that stuff. That Superstition, thing. If you listen to that record, that is such a groove. You can't you can't stop it. And a lot of it is those keyboard parts. Again, drums is happening, bass is happening. That clav part is just like unbelievable, infectious, and not everybody right, but Reese can.
And he actually gave me credit in an interview or two. I became one of the crew members. Said, "Well, if you record that, you'll have a hit." And so we did, and we did. So,
You're right, man.
yeah.
That's right. That is so cool, man.
Yeah. God, where else was I going with that? I think. Can you think of anything else?
Oh gosh, I remember some of the questions you asked me before, but I think that's pretty thorough. I mean, right now, if you could think of anything else, call me back. No?
Yeah, and we can easily do more of these because I've got it down, and with the smaller picture now for you.
But if you have any more questions to ask me, call me, and I can do.
And we didn't freeze up at all.
No, this worked perfect.
I do notice that if you're talking and I talk, then it mutes you for a second. So I don't know what that is, but
No, I can just I just hope I didn't piss.
well, buddy, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Is that a different rug you're laying on?
No, it's the same.
Is it?
Yeah, it's the same.
Oh, it was just spread out before on the screen. So you're more compact now.
I had to plug the phone in, so I had the screen sideways. But now I've got it horizontal.
This works real good. We'll remember this for next time.
Okay, will do.
Thank you, Johnny.
Man, I love doing this, and so let me know if there's anything I can do to help.
Well, you've done a bunch. We'll try to sell some records.
Cool.
Say hey to Kay. I love you guys. And one of the things on my thing was that you guys maybe have the most successful, just wonderful relationship that I've ever seen.
Yeah, we're looking at 46 years now.
Wow.
Married this Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And we've been holed up together since February, and she hadn't killed me yet.
That's good.
It must be a good relationship.
Yeah. 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 All right, you guys stay safe, and can't wait till you can see another gig. Love to hear
Me
you.
too.
All right, love you guys.
Love you too. Take care.
All right, bye.